Chili plants like a lot of light. However, chili seedlings can be a little sensitive to too much light. In today's video, I'm going to show you some symptoms of your plants getting too much light, and we're going to talk about how much light they actually need. This is an example of what your plants should look like if they're getting the right amount of light. Those leaves are looking lovely and healthy, deep green, and they're absolutely perfect. These plants are around about 30 days old, and yeah, they're looking just beautiful. Now let's go take a look at some plants that are getting a little bit too much light. Probably the best case scenario when your plants are getting too much light is when the leaves start to darken up. Normally they go a little bit of a purple color. You can see the new leaves coming through are lovely and green. This is not a purple plant, it's meant to be green. But when they're getting a bit too much light, think of it like a suntan that this plant is trying to protect itself by darkening up so it doesn't get too much of that light. Like I said, that's best case scenario because that will recover very easily. You can see that plant is doing its best to adapt to the high light. Another very clear indicator that you're getting too much light when they start bleaching like this. You definitely are getting way too much light to the plant. These leaves are going to die and fall off this one. And you can see there's quite a few leaves that have actually fallen off on these seed trays. Once I give these plants decent light again, they will start to thrive. You can see how resilient chili plants are. There's a lot of new growth coming through. And these plants are adjusting to the fact that they're getting way too much light. If you notice, these leaves are much smaller than the leaves I showed you in the beginning. They're trying to reduce their surface area. The spacing between the veins are much smaller so it can gather up less light. The lights I'm using above these plants are not dimmable. They are LED lights, which a lot of you are probably using. These, I think, are the Mars Hydro lights. They are the older series that don't have the dimmer, which means that these are full blast on these plants. The distance is decent enough, but if I measure this even with a lux meter, never mind my power meter, so let me just switch this on. That's very bright, let that adjust for a bit. But if I measure this with a basic lux meter, because most full spectrum lights like this will have a similar output when it comes to power, so you can kind of measure lux and it'll give you an indicator, which will be fairly accurate. But at the canopy here, I'm getting 3,800 by 10, so that's 38,000 lux at the canopy. And my aim is actually 1,200 to maybe 2,000 lux. So this is pretty much double what it should be getting. Now let's go have a look at the first set of leaves that I showed you and see what lux they have. These lights do great for vegetative growth. So if you're doing herbs inside this let pot system, this is the LPH Max, I believe. If you're doing herbs or this early seedling growth, it's absolutely perfect for it, as you can see by these beautiful, healthy plants. These, by the way, are the same age as the plants I just showed you. But anyway, let's move this away a little bit again, just so we can get to it. And we'll switch that on. So there's the lighting on. Definitely can see it's not as bright as the other one, but the proof is there. Those are just stunning looking leaves. Just what I want to see. The one problem with these beautiful big leaves is that you've got to be careful about when you're putting these plants out in the sunshine. I don't like to harden off my plants with a big complex process. I try to do it the lazy way. Let's take a look at this. We'll use the lux meter again and have a look. I'm not pulling out my power meter because most people are not going to have a power meter. They are quite expensive, but if you do want one, I will link the one I use down below. But we can see there, if I'm looking at this canopy level, that's about 10,000. If I come up a bit closer, we're looking at 12,000. Let me do a hold and we'll just get it. So that's 12,610 lux. Way less than the 40,000 lux that we have under my other grow light. So these cheap grow lights that are used with these type of systems, and some of the cheap grow lights you can get on Amazon, are absolutely perfect for seedling growth. They are going to be a bit of a problem later on when these start getting far more developed because these plants are going to need a lot more light. This here is one of my other grow lights. This is a Mars Hydro, and as you can see, this one you can adjust the amount of light that comes out. So it has a dimmer switch. I have this turned all the way down to about 10%. And if we come down and look at the plants underneath it, I'm growing some tomatoes in this tray and a few chili plants as well. But if I have a look at the lux reading, let's turn that on, if I can see it. It's quite a bit brighter here. That's looking at 20,000 lux. So if I do a hold, you can see that 20,000 lux. And yeah, it's okay. That's probably the max that I would put this at. If I turn this light all the way up to 100%, and we look at that lux reading, we're looking at 100,000 lux. Way too much. These plants would not be happy with that at all. So we're going to get it back down again. The problem is if I go too much below 20,000 lux, then it starts taxing the drivers. It's pulling the signal down a little bit too low, and you'll start hearing some squealing. Never a good thing with electronics. You don't want buzzing. So I turn it up just above where the buzzing is, and that takes me to around about 20,000 lux. If you want to learn a lot more about grow lights, around the difference between par and lux and why par is the far better measurement, and if you want to learn a bit more about color spectrums and what's best for your chili plants, as well as some very cool graphs to show you what the best lighting measurements are to use throughout your season, then I have got a video that I did last year. I'll link to it down below in the comments as well as in the description. If you want to discuss this with me, I am available on Discord. We have a public Discord channel, but you'll find me more often in the private one. If you become a patron, you get full access to that, or if you become a YouTube member. So check that out. It really helps support the channel and keeps me making videos like this. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope your plants are doing fantastically, and I hope they do even better by taking on some of these tips. Until the next one, stay spicy.